How is everybody doing? And welcome back for another Strength Chat episode. I had this guest on before. It was a really popular episode. I've got her back on again, but now she's the current silver medalist at this year's European Championships, holding all three of the British records in her weight class. Today, I'm joined by the one and only Sarah Davies. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks a lot for taking the time to jump back on again. Bit has changed since the last time you jumped on. How are you feeling with your medals from the Europeans?
Yeah, good. It's one of those things people keep asking me. They're like, "You must be buzzing," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, I did a thing. Now we keep training for the next things." It's almost like you don't quite get the time to enjoy it because it's straight on to the next thing, and we're 14 weeks today till I compete at the Olympics, hopefully. So it's straight back to it.
Yeah. I know when we spoke last time, obviously, did a little bit of a background. And for everyone listening, 100% go and check that episode back out. But especially when we spoke last time, obviously in the middle of lockdown, having to adjust training and all those sort of things. And between then and now, obviously a lot has changed. But how was the sort of, obviously, gyms opening and then gyms closing again? How did that sort of affect prep for the Europeans, and what was it like actually competing again?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty fortunate that I don't even know what lockdown number it was, but when we first, when the gyms closed again, what was it, like December time or whatever, we tried to do a little bit of like training elsewhere. A friend of ours owns like a mechanic garage and said we could set up there, but it was cold. Like I just wasn't about that vibe. But then luckily we got the kind of go ahead that because we're elite athletes and we're training to the Olympics, we were able to just go into the gym and train there. So we basically did it was a bit like Fight Club. Like you're allowed in to train if you're elite and the doors were locked and you lock yourself in and whatever else. So that was, I was very, very lucky with that. I'm very fortunate because, when we first went into lockdown, obviously it was this time of year, the weather was nice. You could train outside, like the whole vibe was a lot better. If we'd have had to do that whole outside training thing, or like even in the garage was cold, like it wouldn't have helped at all. It would have been such a struggle. And, it wasn't until kind of 8 weeks out from the Europeans that we kind of had it actually confirmed that we were going to go. So training has been it's been struggling to like keep motivated. I think if I didn't have the goal of the Olympics, I'd have really struggled to keep training. There's some people that, will make international teams for weightlifting, but won't make the Olympic team. And I know from them, it's been really difficult because they've not got that kind of end goal to work towards. So for us, it was like, well, the Europeans may or may not go ahead, but at least we've got the Olympics to work for in the summer. And then, when we finally got that go ahead for the Europeans, that was the rocket up the arse that I needed, and got my head down for training and got a really good solid block of training in, and just motivated to go to it. And yeah, it was exciting. It was cool to have something to work towards again. And, to get back up on that platform was pretty cool. Because obviously we have like international friends when we go away, and when you talk to people who'd already lifted, like there was a little bit of like a negative vibe around that. People were like, "Oh, it's been so long since we've competed and this and that." And I remember talking to one of my teammates, I was like, because we still had to lift, I was like, "Look, I'm not about this negative vibe. It's the same platform, it's the same weights, it's the same stage, it's still snatch, it's still clean and jerk. We've both got, over 10 years experience in the game each. Like, let's just go out there and let's just do this." And, we both lifted really well. So it was just about having that mindset of just trusting yourself and trusting the process that, you have done it so many times before. And it's not any different. There's no external factors really in weightlifting. So you've just got to go out there and trust the training and trust the process. So it was cool to be back out there. Like I enjoy competing. That's why I do it. Training's fun, but at the end of the day, you do it to compete. So, it was definitely good to be back on that stage.
Oh, good. I know from the posts on social media and the sort of the sort of team. I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Vibe or feel of supporting each other and everything. Came across in the social media. And do you think that was part of obviously, you lifting the weight was obviously part of it as well, but do you reckon that, the sort of team culture helped? Because I know in, powerlifting, weightlifting, they always think about, right, it's just you and there's no one else behind you. But do you think that helped you and, helped everyone else?
Yeah, we obviously sent a really small team out to the Europeans. It was just those of us who were trying to qualify for Tokyo, and that needed to go there just because of the health risks that come with sending people. So it wasn't like the risk to British weightlifting was too high to send people that didn't need it for qualification and stuff. But yeah, me and those girls, I've been through a lot over a lot of years, and to all be working towards that same goal. You've all been through the same thing. We've had one of the girls on the team lost her mum earlier this year. So the fact that she was there and pushing and doing what she did, like, she put a post up after she won and just put, "This is for you, mum." And all of us got a little bit emotional, I think, whether you knew the girl or not. So, yeah, so it was definitely a good vibe. And to have, I like taking a big team away. It shows what we can do as a nation, but that small team kind of family vibe, like I said, I've been in the sport for over, nearly 10 years now. And those girls, their family, like that we spend all this time together, we travel together, and although it's an individual sport, you were there to support each other. And some of us used to compete against each other. There used to be 3 of us in one weight class at one point, and you can only take 2 to an international competition per weight class, so there was always a bit of a battle. And now that we've kind of all separated out into different weight classes, there's definitely a much friendlier vibe. Like, we always supported each other no matter what, but it just changes that dynamic a little bit when you're not in direct competition. So yeah, it was definitely nice to go through it together. And, we laughed a lot. We had a lot of stress with travel and stuff, because trying to get through all the COVID testing and all the protocols and everything. And to laugh together through it was definitely a big part of it. And to hopefully have all those girls going to Tokyo, I think it's going to be an exciting summer, that's for sure.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I suppose as well from it'll be because obviously it's unprecedented, circumstances and everything like this, and it'll be a memory to look back on, that like the first competition after COVID. I think that'll be a good memory to have, and especially with competition dates being penciled in, or a lot of competitions coming up for the end of the year. Obviously, a lot of people might be going to their regional competitions or just gym competitions, to then blow that up to first competition back, you're on the European platform. What sort of, was anything different? Were nerves different? And what can other people that are going to be not competing, because I think the last time I competed was over a year ago. So how did anything change for you in your routine, and what can you sort of give advice for other people who are going to be going back into competing after such a long time off?
Yeah, I mean, we'd done a couple of virtual competitions, but I really struggled with those because it's just another heavy training session. So to get yourself in that competition mindset, you're still in the gym, you're still doing whatever. So I struggled with that. And like I said, I'm a competitor. I enjoy being on that stage, and it's about channeling that energy and using it, be excited to be up there again and to have that opportunity. And, it is a sign that the world is going back to normal. Be excited by that. It comes with some anxiety and stuff, because given the current circumstances, the last place I wanted to travel was to Russia, right? But to get back, even just got on the plane and you sat there, and just to hear that rumble of the engines again, because I know some people traveled in the summer, when you could get on holiday and everyone went to Dubai and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't do that. I've not left the country for so long. And just to hear that, just be excited by it and the opportunity, and don't put the pressure on to perform, I think is the biggest thing. I went out there and was like, do you know what? It's the first competition back. I've had the best training block I've had in such a long time. I'm in top shape. I've made weight well. Let's just go out there and let's just enjoy it. And I think that's what you've got to do. Don't put pressure on yourself to hit PBs. Don't put extra pressure on yourself that isn't needed. Go out there, find your feet again, and just enjoy the process, and the fact that we can do it again, because I think that in itself is just something to enjoy and be proud of. And the fact that you've kept training, or you've come back from not being able to train, make sure you factor all those things into your goals for the competition as well, because I think you're like, oh, I want to get PBs, but if you've not been able to train for the last 6 months, that's unlikely to happen, and you're going to injure yourself. So just go for 6 for 6, 9 for 9 if it's powerlifting, whatever it is, and just go to enjoy yourself and get that feel back out there.
Yeah, from a coaching point of view, have you found that, especially now that gyms are back open? Because I know I've had quite a lot of clients. I've had some clients that have been lucky enough to have garage gyms, but some have literally had nothing, and then all of a sudden there's competition dates sort of released, and it's like, oh wow, I'm going to go to a competition. How have you sort of put that across to the clients that you're working with, and sort of, put a plan in place to be like, yeah, we want to, everyone wants to get on the platform again, but what sort of your being process and your sort of conversations that you've had?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. So Adam Bishop, the strongman, put a thing up the other day, and he's like, you write this program for people, and then people just ignore it and go for 1 rep maxes. He was like, is this a strongman thing? I was like, no, that's everyone. I think that's just a strength sport thing.
I wanted just to have that playing around the gym just as soon as it opened, just be like, just have that on the screens all the time.
Yeah, so it's and reminding people that muscle memory is a big thing as well. Like if you've not been able to train, if you can get a 12 or 16 week block in of good solid training and making sure you're looking after yourself, I'm like, your body is going to hurt for the first couple of weeks, like getting used to it. Even if the weights aren't heavy, you just get that DOMS just because you've not done the movements. So take those couple of weeks with the light weights to get the movements going again, especially with like snatch, clean and jerk, like because they're so technical, to get that movement pattern, remind your body and stuff again. And a lot of my lifters are masters lifters, so to retrain the body with those movement patterns takes that little bit longer. But yeah, just reminded them that what competition is, however many weeks away, like we'll just go and we'll do what we can do. But I think, in 16 weeks, you can get back up to where you were, provided you're sensible and you follow the program and you stick to the light weights. And then, if you get the light weights, things will start moving, and then we can creep it up. But again, that reminder of like, okay, there's a competition that soon. Let's just do it and almost like train through it, get back into the swings of competing again. And then let's look at what's further down the line. And I think that's the most important thing for people when they're kind of getting back into it, if they haven't been able to train.
Yeah, definitely. And touching on the Adam Bishop's post, especially seeing other coaches share that post quite a lot. It was kind of it came at a right time, really, because I think everyone has had somebody say, oh yeah, well, I just decided to just bolt this onto the program. And it is, there's always a process, even if you sometimes, because I've done it before, where I've looked at a program and just thought, are you sure this is what I should be really doing? But it's all about trusting that process, and especially going on to sort of your program and building up to the Europeans, and getting the PBs that you did. And I know when we spoke before, you mentioned about some little tweaks in exercises that you've been using to address technique. Was there anything different about the build up to this block in terms of training? If it's one of the best blocks that you've had of training before, or was it just because like you said, you had that that spark to be like, right, first competition back, qualifying for the Olympics? What was sort of the factors that played in that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing with the program is that it can be the worst program in the world, but as long as you believe in it, then you're going to make improvements. And you could have the best program in the world, written by the top coach you could find in the world. And if you don't believe in the process, then you're not going to follow it. You're not going to make improvements. So actually for this one, what I did is I followed a program that I followed into the British in 2019. So that's when I first snatched that 101 British record. And, I was in top shape going into that. I had life circumstances that threw at me, but I still pulled out like a PB performance. So I was like, okay, I know this program works. It's 8 weeks long. That's what I've got into the Europeans. Let's just give that a try. Let's kind of fudge the weights a little bit, because obviously I'm stronger now. So I basically just did that program again, plus 5 kilos pretty much on every exercise, because I knew it worked. And, coach said to me, he was like, it's fine. You went, we're still going to work on your technical stuff when you're doing your movements. So that's not a problem. And he went, as long as you believe in that program and it's going to get you in shape, then that's all I care about, because at the end of the day, you just have to believe in it. So, so I actually followed an old program, which just goes to show that, programs don't need to be that technical. They don't need to change all the time. Like, because at the end of the day, you've just got to get strong. And so people like to overcomplicate it and change it all the time and whatever else. So I just used something that was tried and tested. And, if the fact that I performed as well as I did going into that competition when life kind of threw a spanner at me, or 5, then, I'm like, okay, my life's set. Like, I know what's going on. Let's do this program and let's see where we end up. So, and I mean, I've got like 14 weeks into the Olympics now, so I'm going to do a bit of a strength block, and then I'll probably follow something similar again into the Olympics, just because I know it works. And it's that old thing, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Definitely. I might be going on a complete massive tangent, because I didn't write anything down on this, but having having conversations with sort of like other coaches and in terms of programming, because you speak to people who've come into the gym. I've been out of the gym wanting a program, wanting coaching, and they can get a lot of benefit. Just off the top of my head, a lot of people have used like a 5-3-1 program or whatever it may be, and they can recycle that and get a couple of gains, if you like, from it, and build a good base of strength, but then tweak things as it goes. Obviously, the discussion from athletes such as yourself at the elite level, how much sort of obviously believing in the program, but how much conversation do you have with your coach of, look, we've done this program before, is it just like for like, just running that program again, but just lifting heavier weights, or do you tweak certain things, or is it just like what you said, just believing in the program and just trying to increase the weights from when you did before? If that kind of makes sense for them.
Yeah, so that program was a program I did with my old coach. So when I had a conversation with Cyril, my coach now, he was like, look, if it works for you, then it works. And yeah, like the focus is slightly different. So although the exercises are the same, the focus on what I'm doing technically is different. And we just, we can still make technical changes within that program. But the thing is, when you're at that elite level, there's not that much you're going to change technically. I've been doing it for 10 years and I have some weird quirks when I lift, like my hands skipping when I snatch, and I wouldn't recommend it. But the chance of me actually being able to fix that now at this point is probably pretty slim. Like you'll probably watch some top lifters and you go, that technique is not textbook, but it works for them. And it's that balance of when you're at that elite level of, I'm not going to make massive technical changes now in the next however many weeks into the Olympics. Like I've just got to, try and just refine it and like reinforce what I am doing, and just get strong with it. So yeah, it's a case of just trying to add the weight. And like I was talking to coach this morning, and to be fair, I don't really work off percentages, which I know a lot of people do. I tend to work off like sets and reps and what I can get out on that day for those sets and reps, and making sure they're good. I guess it's a little bit like people in powerlifting work with like the RPE scale. It's kind of similar in a way. Like, okay, I know I've got 5 sets of free programs. I know I can get my 5 sets out on 110 kilos, whatever it is, like, and they'll be good sets and whatever. And then maybe by set 3, if they're moving really easily, I'll creep it up a little bit for the last 2 sets. But it's a case of finding a weight that's good enough to challenge you, but not too hard that you're going to miss reps. So yeah, I guess it's one of those things, as you get more experience in the game, you kind of learn what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic when you say sort of actually having good sets, because I know it might sound daft, but sometimes you'll look at something and they'll nudge the weight up, know that it's too heavy, but then still try and go from that. So from that, will you, depending on how you feel, even though you're not based off using a percentage program, but especially with the reps, will you nudge the weight down or nudge it up? And is there anything if it's sort of right, is there anything wrong with nudging the weight down for that specific program to be like, actually, I might not have slept great, I might not have got enough food, and going from there?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I used to be the worst. A couple of years ago, I used to be the worst for just slamming weight on the bar and just trying to bin myself underneath it. And you don't achieve anything from that, right? From missing reps. So you've got to get reps to get strong. And yeah, like I'll always say, and like when I coach my lifters as well, I say a program is like Pirate's Code. I don't know if you watch Pirates of the Caribbean, but it's just a guideline. And, if you do your last warm-up set and it's hard today, then keep it on that weight. Like there's nothing wrong with that, because if you need to do that on a day that you feel rough, like on a day you feel fresh, you'll get the top weights out. So yeah, there's definitely benefit in keeping it down. Like you said, if you've not slept great, people that I program, they've got like real jobs, kids, all of that kind of stuff, like travel with work, or like things like that have a massive effect on training. And people try and claim that they don't have an effect on how they're feeling, but they do. Like that's just life. Like if you've not slept great or whatever it is, like be sensible and get the most out of your body for that day. And if that is slightly less weight, then you're better off doing that than either missing weights or, using bad technique just to get the weight done anyhow. And then you're just going to make yourself worse off. And if you feel really terrible, just go home.
Yeah,
Done that
definitely.
before.
The good thing from there, and for any of my clients listening, Sarah Davies have just used the same quote that I did from Pirates of the Caribbean, saying it's just a template. So that's it now. I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that all the time. I was like, surely other people will be using that. But yeah, 100%. It's not always set in stone. And I just wanted to touch on that because sometimes, you see. Elite athletes, such as yourself, throwing this weight around, but it's all relative. The weight that you're using for that, that might be somebody else's PB, and it's not the end of the world to drop it down a little bit.
I think that's where social media is dangerous as well, because people just post the good stuff when training's going well, right? And I'm a sucker for it. Like if training's been terrible, I'll just find an old video to show you instead.
Yeah. But it's one of those things that it's not always the most exciting thing to be talking about all the time. But practicing that good form, getting that technique down, and then even though you might not be lifting at the higher percentages or lifting near a max, you can go out on the platform and then all of a sudden you're getting a PB. Just to touch on sort of obviously you mentioned there about other clients, day jobs, kids, and being able to actually focus and concentrate on training. I kind of wanted to touch on, because not only having to deal with COVID, having a first competition flying over to Russia as well, but being made chair of the athletes commission as well. So I kind of wanted to touch on, in terms of concentration level and distractions for competing and training for a sport that you've been around the sport for a long time, obviously something that you're really passionate about. Did that have any impact on training? Did that, distract anything?
I've been busy. Like, let's put it that way. I've been busy. And some of my friends are like, how on earth do you do so much of your day? And I'm like, I don't know. I actually don't know. But I guess because everything's been shut, right? So I've had no social life anyway, because that's not been allowed. So I've actually been able to do all the work. But yeah, it was interesting when I got to Moscow, and obviously because before, I was good in the sport and kind of some people knew who I was, but I didn't have that big platform that, some people, your star lifters that get the coverage from the fan pages and stuff like that. So then suddenly everyone knows who I am because I'm chair of the athletes commission. I've been outspoken about the drugs in the sport and all that kind of stuff. And suddenly everyone knows who I am. And I'm just kind of walking around the food hall, kind of 50. And I got some filthy looks from some of the nations who, I have been kind of inadvertently battling with in terms of the doping issues that we've got in weightlifting right now. But I remember, because I was kind of going head for head with a Russian girl in my group, and it was on clean and jerk, and Dave, the coach, looked at me and went, well, I won't exactly say what he said, but he was like, come on, go out there and prove to them that you're you and you can do what you can do, as well as having the talk to go with it. And that was a big thing. I think it definitely did fuel it, because unfortunately in this game, unless you've got the medals to back up your performance, whether you're the best person, whether you could be educated in all kind of manners of law and have a PhD and everything else, and they're still not going to care, because they care about performance and medals. And unless you're a top lifter, they don't think you can give that kind of advice. So there was definitely a little bit of, not extra pressure, but I wanted to prove to them who I was, and all right, I can be outspoken and I can talk about you all and say that, what we need to change, but I'm also a very good lifter, and you really need to shut up and listen. So it definitely added a little bit of excitement to the trip, because like I said, suddenly everyone knew who I was, which was a bit weird. I quite like just going under the radar and turning up on the platform. But There was
Maybe
also the other side of it, I guess, is there was a lot of lifters who kind of stood with me, who I'd spoken to through social media when everything was kind of in the height of it all kicking off. A lot of people were like, we're really thankful for you. You were the right person for this job. All of us stand with you. So it went both ways, I guess.
Yeah, on that, sometimes, especially if it makes things a little bit spicy, if you like, maybe I'm a secret anarchist, it would have been interesting to be in that environment. But I know from some of the watching it on Eurosport, I'm listening to some of the commentators. Obviously, that was mentioned a little bit in some of the commentary as well, and especially going forward, are things looking more positive? Is the change headed in the direction that you're wanting, or is it going to be a little bit of a longer process? Because from just a viewer's point of view, it's interesting that it isn't letters behind a closed door and meetings behind a closed door. I think quite a lot of athletes have obviously being outspoken and everything. So is change happening?
Yeah, there's movement. It's not happening as fast as I'd like it to. It's probably not happening as fast as the Olympic Committee would like it to either, but it's moving. I just hope that, we are going to move completely in the right direction, not kind of like 45 degrees in the right direction. So we're still kind of a foot on both sides of the fence. So we're getting there. There's some push. So we just have to hope that it keeps going in the right way and keep doing what we're doing. And, I've got good support around me from nations that I know stand with us, and I've had good support from British weightlifting as well. So slowly I think is the answer to that one.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of wanted to touch on there because it's when we talk about stress on lifters and that sort of stuff, especially the profile of it as well, and the stress on it, especially first competition back, boom, straight into an international competition. The other stresses that they put on it. I thought it was. Wondered what your take on it was.
Yeah, it was interesting, and it was interesting that there was members of the executive board at the Europeans, and they walked past me 5-6 times and didn't acknowledge me. And I'm like, we sit in executive board meetings today. You know who I am. Like, there's no pretending otherwise. Especially the fact that I'm stood there in GB kit as well. So, I mean, So it was interesting, and it is a bit of a stressor, I guess. But I don't know. Like, people laugh at me, but I'm always busy. Like, it doesn't matter what. So it just kind of gives me something else to do, I guess. Apparently, if I'm not super busy, I'm not happy. So
definitely. But as well, with something like that, if it's something that you really are passionate about, I know sometimes I think when there's certain things that have I don't know whether monopolized is the right word, but trying to change something and something that you're passionate about, obviously no one wants to be like, why don't we do it this way?
That's the thing.
Why don't we change it?
It's so deeply rooted as well. Like, the problem's gone on for the last 50 years or whatever it is. So trying to suddenly change it is not going to happen straight away. And there is a lot of resistance to it because we've always done it this way. So therefore we must keep doing it that way. And, it's time for the sport to move forwards into the modern world and have the right people in position to help it to do so.
Yeah, definitely, and hopefully, that these changes will happen, especially with being in there, a modern day sport. Because again, going back to when we spoke before, that that to do a lot to be compete against maybe the bigger nations of the US and that sort of stuff. You kind of you have to push to be a full time athlete to be able to compete with other things. Going on to sort of now, and obviously we chatted a little bit after before we started recording, but especially with the travel involved coming back from Russia and now sort of back in training. You mentioned 14 weeks to the Olympics. What is the plan looking like from there? What is the I know you said obviously doing a volume block, but how sort of I know obviously motivation will be high, but what's the plan going forward?
Yeah, so we've kind of put a little plan together as a team, and we're going to try and get every couple of weeks a training session in together. So myself and Emily Campbell train together at Atlas anyway. So she's our super heavyweight lifter, but there are 2 other girls on the team. So you've got Zoe Smith and Emily Muscat, and they live further afield. So we're going to try and get it every few weeks where we can get together and train together just to motivate each other. And it's just nice to have new faces and push each other along, especially with like Zoe and Emily Muscat, because they're a weight class either side of me. So it's, we lift relatively similar weights. So it's trying to just push each other, and, you're watching each other in training and they've got that weight on the bar. So you want to put either the same on or a little bit more. And, it's that kind of friendly competition, and it's good for all of us. So that's, part of it. I've actually just bought a new bar because the bars they're using at the Olympics are different. So, and they spin slightly differently. So that's going to potentially take some getting used to, hopefully not loads, but it's one of those things I was like, that's a lot of money to spend. But if it's the 1% that makes a difference between getting an Olympic medal and not, at least I know I've left no stone unturned. So, so we're moving forwards. I'm doing a lot of work from the blocks at the minute. So just basically from knee height when it comes to the competition lifts and dropping underneath. So I'll do that for kind of 4 or 5 weeks and maybe test that out with a heavy from there, because my coach now, he quite likes it. It's like a bit of a confidence builder. Because if you can get yourself under the heavy weights from there, then it's going to be, you know, it feels heavy from the floor, but at least you know you can get underneath it and you can stand it up. So that's kind of the plan for the first few weeks. And then, as I said, I'll probably just recycle that program that I did into the Europeans and try and add another couple of kilos to everything as I'm doing it. So yeah, it's exciting. Basically just trying to get as strong as possible within my weight class, because the issue now is, you know, the Olympics should have been last year and I'd probably made the decision to move up a weight class because I'm just getting really lean at this body weight, and the extra year has just made it a little bit more difficult to gain strength within that body weight class and just keep gaining muscle mass. So it's just a case of stay fit, stay healthy, and just keep training smart, not necessarily training hard. I think that's a big thing. You know, it's like 14 weeks to go, let's just put heavy weights on the bar and just it's, you know, it's about training smart into that. And we were hoping to get an international training camp in, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's worth the stress more than anything, especially if we can get together every couple of weeks anyway. I don't think we gain that much benefit from traveling. So I'd quite like the British weather to do what it did last summer. And when we went into lockdown, and bring some sunshine, and then we can kind of have a mini like warm training camp here. But that's the plan really. Just keep doing the same stuff, and you know, hopefully it'll all pay off in the end.
Yeah. If it's anything like the weekend, I know it's been quite nice. I'd quite like to have a little bit more of this. I think as soon as the weather's a little bit better, everyone's a little bit happy with everything. And especially, I always find it interesting when you talk about the 1%. I'm a little bit of a when the other examples that we look at that, and you look at the performances that they've put in and the results after it. So I think Brian Shaw once replicated the strongman log that he had to lift at the competition, basically got it designed and then lifted. I know obviously it's a team sport, but in it was the guy from British Cycling who went to rugby union, but for the British Cycling, the oil that you put on the chains to make it faster, I think all those small little details, I think, you know, will add up. And with the obvious, one thing I want to touch on as well is obviously having the first competition for a while. Do you feel any different after? Because usually competing, you might have had maybe 2 or 3 competitions in a year. Do you feel it, you know, more sore, or are you just, because especially competing and then having 14 weeks in a team sport environment, if you like, obviously you're playing every week, so 14 weeks isn't usually that massive amount of time. Does it feel any different, or has your recovery changed, or have you actually been, you know, feeling pretty good?
I mean, you always feel beat up after the competition. It's not necessarily like the day after competition, like you're a little bit sore, but it's the day after that first session back that's savage, because your body's just like, what on earth happened? Especially when you've cut weight and stuff too. And I think it was made even worse by the fact I probably rested longer than I normally would, because I had to, because of the quarantine rules. So, I mean, I was lucky I could do a 5-day test to release, which made things a little bit better. But yeah, I probably had like a whole week off training, whereas normally I'd have kind of 3-4 days and I'd be back in doing something, even if, because we actually flew home before the competition ended. So normally I'd compete and then I'd have a couple of days, and then Andy, one of our coaches, would be like, God, Sarah, let's go to the gym. And I'd do something. So that would kind of get that initial DOMs of that first session back out the way. So when I came home, I could get straight back into training. So yeah, that kind of threw it all out a little bit. And I kind of tried to go back into the gym last Monday, and back, not like back to full training, but back to like what looks like a weightlifting program. So I did Monday, I was a little bit sore. Tuesday, still did my Tuesday session. Wednesday, I got in the gym. I did a little bit, and then I put like 125 on for my back squat, which I was supposed to be doing for like 6s. I did 1 rep. I just went, nah, binned it off my back, took my boots off and went home. So yeah, but then by the end of the week, by Friday, Saturday, I was feeling good again. So yeah, it's just trying to get back into that routine, you know, because I had so long off to rest, trying to just find that rhythm again. And, you know, when you talk to people who don't train or don't work out, they're like, how do you find the motivation? It's like, it's not motivation, it's just habit. like it's routine. So just trying to get that habit back again of getting in the gym, but we seem to be getting there this week, so that's good.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good topic to, especially when I've spoken with clients, that is, motivation only gets you so far, but sometimes to, start nudging up the rankings, to start progressing a little bit more. Sometimes it goes from motivation to discipline, and sometimes it is just a case of, right, it is habit, and you know that you need to get it done. And when you have those sprinklings of, especially when you mentioned about trying to have training sessions with teammates and everything, that's what makes it a little bit better. Which I think sometimes people forget that it's not just a case of like, you're not going to be motivated every single day, all the time.
Yeah, I refer to it with people, it's a bit like going to work. Like, you get up and go to work every day. Sometimes you feel good about going to work and some days you don't. And basically it's my job to go to the gym these days. Like, it's not because I have my actual business, but it's my job. And some days you feel excited to go to work and some days you're like, I really can't be asked to go to work today. And that happens. So it's just a case of, you still go to work though, right? You've still got to pay the bills. So it's the same thing. Just unfortunately, weightlifting doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah. Definitely. It's one of those, especially for powerlifting, sometimes I'm kind of like, it's one of those things where it's like, sometimes you look at the bar and you think, why do I do that to myself? But I always liken it to, at least I've got a barbell on my back, and I've not had, especially from not playing as much rugby now, I don't have 15 other blokes trying to stamp on my head. So it's kind of just weighing it up as it could be worse. Just touching on the weight category and everything with the training program side of things, because especially with, sometimes after a competition, weight might actually jump up a little bit and then you might cut going into a competition. Have you got a nutrition plan to go alongside the training program? Are you just looking to maintain weight? Is there anything changing on there? Because I know sometimes, especially with competitions coming up, I know I've had a couple of, again, a little bit of a tangent, but I've had a lot of clients mention about, should I be looking to drop weight? And it's like, well, actually at the minute, no, because you don't need to. But then obviously at your level, is it, right, actually I need to have a process, the energy levels are high, but I'm still able to maintain my weight heading into the Olympics?
Yeah, so I mean, I did my nutrition qualification, so I don't have to outsource it. And I learned a lot when we did used to have the funding, and we did used to have a nutritionist. So I learned a lot from that. And now I just know my body. So I compete at 64 kilos, and I aim to sit around 66 and a half. So anywhere between that 66, 67 mark is what I aim for. And then I don't do anything with that until a week out. So obviously I load creatine and stuff as well. So then that's a kilo of water weight. And then you've got another kilo just dehydration the last 24 hours. But that's literally just stopping drinking. It's not like getting in the sauna or anything. So by that point, you've made weight. And that allows you to keep as much actual body weight on as long as possible, because you're just cutting out kind of false weight and water weight and stuff like that. So yeah, I get on the scales every morning. I don't track too hard. I make sure I'm getting enough protein in, but I also know what my meals look like now to get that protein in, rather than having to, track everything. I weigh all my food out, so I know that I'm getting around about the right calories. But again, I don't count the calories. I just know that 75 grams of pasta is what I should be having, or whatever it is. So I guess that's one thing just experience comes into. And because I get on the scales every day, if it starts creeping over that 67 mark, I'm like, okay, put the Haribo down, Sarah. Put the chocolate down. Everyone's just sent me food as well since I got back from the Europeans. Someone sent me like a giant Millie's cookies thing, and I kid you not, it was the size of a pizza. My mate sent me brownies. One of my sponsors sent me like these cake pop things. I'm like, people need to stop sending me this, because it just I just have to eat it. So yeah. But yeah, I don't follow anything strict. Like, I do enjoy Haribo, chocolate, whatever it is, because at the end of the day, it's not going to kill you, and life's more important, and enjoying life and enjoying food. Like, I couldn't do this whole meal prep, boiled rice and chicken thing. No, disgusting. Not for me. And it's the way people cook it all on a Sunday and then just eat the same thing like throughout the week. And I'm like, it's like a week old by the time you get to it on Friday. I'm like, oh. So yeah, like, I don't do anything groundbreaking with my nutrition, I wouldn't say. Making sure I get enough protein in is the main thing. And then other than that, it's just regular normal food. Like
Yeah.
people are always a little bit astounded by that. But yeah, and like I said, I don't track it. I just keep an eye on my body weight every day and rein it in if I need to, or if it's getting a little bit under, then make sure I just get that little bit extra in.
Yeah. I like to touch on nutrition because I think there's always a sort of an aura around what elite level athletes eat, and it's like they've got to be eating something. Like what is it they're eating that makes them throw that weight around? And sometimes it is exactly what you said there. Just eating normal food, not a case of there's nothing crazy, and especially when I've spoken with clients and you talk about nutrition, you should enjoy food, and especially if you're dieting, if you feel as though you're not on a diet and you can still enjoy tasty food, it's going to make things a lot easier.
And that's what I do. Like, I mean, Emily Campbell, my teammate, her dad's Jamaican, so I think if she saw me eating boiled rice and dry chicken, she'd throw it out the window. But yeah, and like even up to the week before competition, like I'm still enjoying quote unquote treat food. And I don't really like that terminology. Like I'm not a fan because I think it builds bad food habits. But yeah, I'm a week out from competition. I'm still enjoying chocolate. I'll still grab a McFlurry. I'll just take it out of my meal somewhere else. Like I'll just have less pasta at that nighttime or whatever it is. So I think that's the thing, is teaching people like what a true balance is, and that those foods aren't the devil and you can still enjoy them, and you can still enjoy them and lose weight, like as long as you're making appropriate changes throughout the program. Because I think if you just take stuff like that out completely and restrict it, that's when you end up with the binge and people go completely off the wagon. So yeah, I'm very much a advocate of kind of eat what you want, just be smart on the quantities of it, I guess. If you if you want to gain weight, eat more of it. If you want to lose weight, eat less of it, but eat less of everything. Don't just restrict other stuff. And that's the one that gets me. People are like, oh yeah, but I made protein brownies, and I'm like, they have as many calories in them as a regular brownie and they just taste terrible. Like they taste like powder. Like just eat a regular brownie. Like just because you like, and I think it's an industry thing, is that, we've been like through social media told that if it's got the word protein in it, it's healthy. Actually, some of these protein bars have more calories in them than a Mars bar. Like just eat the Mars bar. You're going to enjoy it more because you'll eat the protein bar and you'll be like, that didn't really satisfy me. So then you're going to eat the Mars bar anyway. So just eat the Mars bar in the first place.
Yeah, definitely. It is one of those, especially when you again, I know I said it earlier on in the chat, but I might just have that playing around the gym because I know for me, my coaching style has always been around strength training, and when that sort of, a lot of clients don't have access to the gym anymore, especially over the last year, I think the coaching style has changed a little bit about, right, let's focus on nutrition, focus on habits and everything, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy. There was another coach that I worked with, just his phrase is just eat like an adult. Like, having chicken nuggets, beans, and chips is awesome. Like, I love that. Like, I'd have that. But you have that every single day. One, you're going to get a little bit bored of it. And two, you're either going to start feeling, if you are training, you are going to start feeling a little bit fatigued. You are going to start maybe not performing as well or feeling a little bit rubbish. But everyone knows that they need to, eat a bit more protein, eat a little bit more veg. But ultimately, I had tonsillitis at the start of the year, so it just kicked off an ice cream habit. So now, I don't mind admitting it, there's some Ben and Jerry's in the freezer, but I don't smash 2 tubs all the time. So yeah, definitely, I think it's that's a good way of looking at it, and sort of bursting that bubble, if you like, around what do elite athletes eat? And it's like, well, they just eat like an adult. They just eat, what they want, and just manage it when they need to. Yeah. Okay. Obviously, you mentioned there about the creatine trying to drop weight into a competition, but they're sort of. I always think about, once you're competing for medals and records, that's where that's going to become important. But especially for the powerlifters that are going into competitions, just going to a weight category that you're going to feel comfortable with. And
that's how I started lifting. My first coach, when I started lifting, I weighed about 60 kilos, and the weight classes at the time were 58 or 63. Could I have cut weight to 58? Probably, but he had a bigger thing of go there, enjoy the competition, don't add extra stress, don't, like all that kind of stuff. Just get used to competing and being out there and all that kind of stuff. And then you can worry about weight when you do start challenging for national medals or qualifying for international teams and all that kind of stuff. But actually what happened is I just grew into the bigger class anyway, because I put muscle mass on as I was training and everything else. So I think people, and it's definitely a thing in weightlifting here, I don't know about other sports, is people keep themselves in a lighter weight class and stop themselves growing and improving because they're more bothered about, you know, podiuming at a British Championships. But actually, if you moved up a weight class, you probably, like, yeah, you might not podium at the British the next year, but in 2 years' time, you'll qualify for international teams a lot easier, you know, and the longevity of your career, especially, you know, people in their early 20s and guys specifically, like, you're never going to put muscle mass on ever again like you will do in your early 20s. Like, the older you get, the harder it gets. So I think that's definitely a thing here, is people are like, oh yeah, if I'm in this class, I'm more competitive. I'm like, but you'll be more competitive for a longer period of time in that heavier weight class. So yeah, I think that's definitely a problem for us. I don't know about for you guys, but yeah.
Well, I know for me, when I first started in powerlifting, and then I gradually increased in weight categories. The first time I did increase the weight category, didn't do it the right way at all. Felt absolutely awful for it. Yeah, and then I think I actually, because that was the first year that I actually got to compete at the British Championships, which was an awesome experience. But yeah, I didn't. Because I didn't increase a weight category very, very well, didn't perform as well as I wanted to. Changed that into a year, changed nutrition around and all that sort of stuff, working with a different coach. Or actually, yeah, you know, it's a lot better. So I think there's sometimes a negativity actually increasing weight, whereas actually, you know, it can be a good thing, because ultimately, especially in strength sports, you know, you want to lift more weight, you want to get stronger,
and that's the point I'm at now. So like I said, when I started lifting, I could have gone in the lighter weight class, but I filled that one out, and now I'm at a point where I need to move up a class again, and you know, because if I want to get stronger, then that's just what I need to do. So like, I've hit pretty much my strength potential in terms of my raw strength stuff. Like in my competition lifts, I've probably got a little bit more in there, but you know, to gain much more muscle mass. I'm actually getting a DEXA scan in a few weeks, just because I like to nerd out on numbers, just to see, like, you know, how lean I actually am and the muscle mass that I've gained over those few years, because I've got a DEXA from, I don't know, it'd be like 4 or 5 years ago now. So it'd be interesting to see the change in the muscle mass. And, you know, I'm leaner now, but I've got to move up a weight class. So it just goes to show there is a time and a place to do it. And I'd have liked to have done it 12 months ago if the Olympics was then, but we've got to hold off. And yeah, so after this Olympics, it'll be a change in weight class for me, I think.
Yeah. Oh, good. I've only ever had one DEXA scanner, and that was when I was in Australia, and I felt like I was in like Star Trek or something like that, where it was a bit beams over you. But quite a lot of topics covered there, Sarah. Thanks a lot for taking the time to jump on. It was awesome chatting to you again. But the last question that I always like to ask, I know we've spoken about, you know, competitions coming up and nutrition, all those sort of things, but what would be your take-home points or words of wisdom for everyone listening?
I think, you know, the biggest thing with the gyms reopening is to be sensible and just to enjoy it, and don't beat yourself up. Like, if you've not been able to train, you're not going to go back in the gym as the same person you were when you left however many months ago. So be sensible with it, take it one step at a time, and please listen to your coaches, because they do actually know what they're talking about.
Good words of wisdom to finish off on there. So for everyone listening, obviously, you know, heading into the Olympics, I know I'll be, you know, watching and keeping an eye on how things are going, and, you know, watching when you're on the platform. But where can people follow you, follow your training, follow your journey, obviously, to the Olympics? But also, you know, if everyone listening is, yeah, actually, I think I need to start listening to a coach and get involved in some coaching with you as well.
Yeah, so the main place to find me is on Instagram. So that's SarahD_GB. And then when it comes to programming and coaching and stuff, I run Wisdom for Weightlifting. So that's Wisdom and the number 4 weightlifting. And that's, you know, I'm terrible at that Instagram page. So if you want coaching, like, message me privately or go through the Wisdom for Weightlifting website. So yeah, any questions or anything, like, people are always surprised, you know, they ask me questions, they're like, oh, thank you so much for replying. And I'm like, well, is that not why you asked me the question? Because you wanted a reply? Like, it always blows my mind a little bit. And, you know, I look at it the other way around. Like, if I was to message someone, like, I'd like a reply. So, yeah, don't be scared to ask questions.
Awesome. Again, thanks a lot for taking the time to jump on. all the best, obviously, with training.
Thank you.
Heading up to Olympics and everything. Like I say, I know for myself, and I hope for everyone listening, we'll be supporting you when you go out there. So thanks a lot for taking the time to jump on. Thanks a lot to everyone listening, and I will see you all next week.
Thank you. Bye.